birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you.
This is Marilyn Monroe singing Happy Birthday to former President John F. Kennedy 3 months before she died. But before we get into that, let's talk about how we got here.
In Los Angeles, California, June 1st, 1926, Norma Jean Mortensen was born to mother Gladys Pearl Baker and alleged birth father Charles Stanley Guilford. When she was 20, she created a stage name that would soon become so famous she had to change her name legally.
Monroe spent most of her childhood in and out of foster care until she was eventually married at 16 years old. She was brought up by her Christian foster parents because her mother was too mentally unstable to raise a child. Monroe eventually became a ward of the state and lived with an allegedly abusive family friends and finally was put into an orphanage.
After spending years of her life in foster care, Monroe began her career as a model, which then led to her film contract in 1946. Her early film appearances were minor, however her performances in The Asphalt Jungle and All About Eve were well received.
Her production company, Marilyn Monroe Productions, released The Prince and the Snow Girl, which received a BFTA award nomination. Monroe also received a Golden Globe for her performance in Some Like It Hot in 1960.
And to the outside world, Marilyn was the American it girl. She really had it all. But if you take a closer look, it's not all the glitz and glam you might think.
But I'm not just generally happy. If I'm generally anything, I guess I'm generally miserable.
One of Monroe's famous quotes, "Hollywood is a place where they'll pay you $1,000 for a kiss but 50 cents for your soul," expressing her demons and darkness caused by the secrets of Hollywood. And due to Monroe's mental health struggles with drug and alcohol addiction, she often blamed herself for her miscarriages and not being able to start a family of her own.
One of Monroe's doctors later told an interviewer, "We knew she was manic depressive." Monroe was reported to have been hearing voices, possible schizophrenia as well, and she attempted suicide on many different occasions before finally succeeding in 1962. So we think.
In 1962, Monroe had met former President John F. Kennedy in Palm Springs at a mutual friend's house. Only 2 months later, Monroe sang the famous Happy Birthday to JFK on May 19, 1962. She also wore a sparkly new dress to make her appear naked that night.
This historic Marilyn dress would later be worn by reality star Kim Kardashian to the 2022 Met Gala to draw inspiration from the Gilded Age in American history. This causes a controversy in its own because of alleged damage done to the dress.
This night was what began rumors about Marilyn's and JFK's relationship.
Who was going to come, and to Miss Monroe, who left a picture to come all the way east, and I can now retire from politics after having had Happy Birthday sung to me in such a sweet...
Sources say that when JFK got, quote, tired of Monroe, he passed her on to his brother Robert Kennedy. A witness claimed to have heard a disturbing tape from the night of Monroe's death, in which an angry Kennedy and Monroe were heard screaming at each other.
Really taking place with the Kennedys.
Huh.
I can go into the dirt, or I can go into lots of other things, but she was hurt, terribly hurt, when she was told directly never to call or contact again.
Not to talk to Robert anymore.
Robert or John.
Right. They had both said, "That's it, no more."
Well, no, that was an order.
But both of them had said to her, that's the end of it.
No, Jack didn't contact her.
Yeah.
Bob did.
I see.
And that's what killed her. I don't care what anyone else says. It was the beginning of the last day, if you will.
Monroe died on August 4, 1962, of a probable suicide or an overdose. A toxicologist determined that Monroe ingested a lethal dose of menbutyl. Around the time of Monroe's death, she was under the care of a doctor and a psychiatrist who had prescribed her many medications to treat her mental health.
I thought it was very strange that she would commit suicide after talking with her on that Friday night before she was found dead, because she had told me the different things that she had planned in her life for the next week, if not a few things the next month.
There are many speculations of foul play around Monroe's death by the Kennedy brothers because she, quote, knew too much. The speculations around her death were so intense that 2 decades later, they reopened the case but still ruled her death a suicidal overdose. Over 60 years later and after her death, this is still being talked about, and although Marilyn Monroe's career and life were short-lived, she still remains one of the most idealized women in Hollywood history.